Yes. I have one on Monday.
Oh. Okay, well, good luck on that too.
Thank you. Everything is live on this section. That's playing. You're live. I just have to add people that I'm live and that's it. How have you been?
Sorry?
How have you been?
Oh, okay, yep, sorry. Yeah, doing pretty well, all things considered. I've got a long weekend this weekend. Between having my normal every other Friday off, and I'm also taking Monday off. Have some family stuff that I'm gonna go do, so should be interesting.
Nice. Yeah, I'm actually surprised the interviews on Monday.
Why?
A lot of people take it off. I mean, specifically in Mexico.
Take it off for... Oh, right, this is like Easter or something this weekend. Or...
Yeah, Easter
my
Monday?
stuff has nothing to do with... My my stuff has nothing to do with any of that. It's just happened to have planned stuff around this weekend.
I see.
Yeah, I'm taking Monday off on the basis of I'm going to do family stuff on Sunday, so I wanted an extra day to have off. Consider going and spending time with my family as work. The true introverted mindset.
Yeah, I also have a family thing on Monday. But I cannot take days from work because I'm not working.
It's probably a big contributor to your inability, yeah?
Well, well, technically this is my job, like making games and such.
Yeah. I have no idea precisely what your financial situation with is with everything, so I'm not gonna make any assumption.
What's strong against bug?
Fire.
Sorry, what's strong against psychic?
Bug.
And dark, right?
Was it a little Freudian? Yeah, dark and bug are good against psychic.
Okay.
You could probably get a Protean dark type attack.
Yeah, I can probably get a Protean to dark type.
Why are you wondering about bug types? Psychic types. Psychic
what's her name?
For the in the game where no one has the same typings is their normal stuff.
Most in the gym trainers do.
I suppose, if you consider them a challenge. And psychic's good against psychic too.
Oh, is psychic weak against itself?
I believe so, yes.
Huh. Well, I do have Psychic Fang in a non-psychic Pokemon.
I will say, me talking to my friend about you playing this has gotten him into like the mindset of, okay, he's going to do his Emerald stuff now. So that's actually starting to progress properly to the point that we've started talking about designing gym leaders and all that sort of stuff.
At least I know Emerald more than I do Fire Red.
Oh, I imagine it'll get changed around a bit too. His thought at this point was like, we're just gonna make the challenge mode like gyms the normal gyms, because none of us because he made it for my friend group. None of us play this on the normal gym leaders anymore, because none of us want to go back to that lower challenge level on it.
Right. But at least you know what to expect.
So the other thought that we were discussing is the idea that we'll make an option to randomize the gym order. So you'll get different gym leaders and different orders with different teams and stuff like that. Basically, the original idea is you could do gyms in any order, and it's yeah, that's probably a big ask to actually edit it to be able to do that. And then the backup idea to that was, well, let's just make it so gym order, who's in what gym, can be randomized. And then make it so that every gym leader has a team for whether they're first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, or eighth gym leader.
Right. Yeah, that should work.
Basically, my main contribution to it is I'm constantly trying to feed in ideas. How do you make this as like replayable as possible? Give it like some of that like variability each time you play it, sort of thing. In terms of like the encounters, because like you can do stuff like mono runs or nuzlocks. That's all on the player side in terms of how you create variation. So I'm trying to introduce more ideas of like how do you make it so that the game, like the challenge it imposes, is a little bit more random. You don't necessarily know what's coming up next, that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, that should be an interesting thing to do.
And for my knowledge, Emerald also has a more matured, like add-ons, plugin sort of things for the ROM hacking scene. So there's more. There's more that he'll be able to do more easily, I believe, in terms of editing the game. Because that's part of the reason he stopped doing Fire Red. Is just like some of the editing like tasks were just a big ask of him to actually go back and do every time.
Right. Yeah, that's the big reason like RPG Maker is like really good. Because there are a lot of plugins. Like vanilla RPG Maker is so-so.
Third-party support for stuff is just such a big deal in like usability for making stuff, yeah.
Ooh, I can now buy great Ultra Balls.
But yeah, I likely design the teams for the Emerald stuff too, so.
So each leader will have like 8 teams. So that's 16 teams. Good luck, don't die.
Yep. Probably also introduce that same sort of concept into like the rivals and stuff like that too. It wasn't done in this because it was like I mentioned before, like the actual task of going back and editing stuff every time was sort of a big thing.
Yeah.
So like so he was very resistant to the idea of doing it for every rival and all that sort of stuff. I love that. I like the thing is like I didn't do almost any of the manual work on this. Like I was entirely helping with specific design tasks for this, as well as the Emerald thing coming up.
Oh, I should pay attention to the chat of Twitch. Morning. And also, you guys don't code everything by hand? Gasp.
Shocking. Yeah, no, especially for that. Like, you want to know a secret? I don't code at all. I have a basic understanding of programming to the point that I generally can understand what I'm looking at, but I don't program at all. None of anything that I put out is a result of me programming.
Yeah.
All the custom stuff I do is either third-party plugins or me using the eventing system in RPG Maker very cleverly. In my opinion, cleverly at least.
Yeah, you do feel... Oh.
Sorry.
Wait, why are there 2 gyms? There's a fighting dojo.
There's the, fighting dojo.
Oh, I need to beat Silphco first?
Huh. Yeah, you need Silphco in order to get into the gym. But you could do the fighting challenge right now. I don't think it's that, but still.
Let's see.
It's right. Not it doesn't have a challenge mode version, but yeah. But you were saying something before that you interrupted yourself on?
That most of the time I do feel clever using the eventing system in RPG Maker in order to like do something that was maybe not intended.
Oh yeah, it's like it is like actually really nice in that it's like a pseudo coding system without needing to know how to code. It is the logic of coding with obvious limitations that you don't that you get from it not being coding itself, right?
Right.
But you can implement sort of like the logic that you could do via a coding system through a lot of the things that it provides to you via the eventing.
Like the moment where you make like an entire game where you probably shouldn't have, like me making a farming simulator.
Yeah. I knew you were gonna say that one too. That's the big one, isn't it? For you, like your like huge deviation from RPG Maker. one day we gotta like one day we gotta make like something just like I think didn't you talk about like a board game on TF Games about something that you thought would be interesting to make? I remember, like, it was the I'm vaguely remember. I think it was the competition like idea. For like the next one, I think I remember seeing a post from you saying, "Oh, we don't have enough board games. We should do a board game theme."
Right. Did I have something in mind for that?
I have no idea. I just remember you saying that. I will say though, and it's something that I've sort of gone back and forth on, is one thing that I wanted to do in between was I wanted to make sort of like a side mini game that was like a mini board game that the events in it were like you do a battle or you get like sort of like a fan service or fan fiction scene for the characters that play out or stuff like that, and then eventually you get to a boss and it's like a little mini board game. I have thought about like, would that idea be better to like take like, instead of trying to make it like a little side thing, because the idea is a side thing, it would be like a method of grinding up materials and stuff like that in that game. I have thought like maybe that would be better to hold off and do as like just like a full game that is just a game that gets updated every once in a while when we want when I or let's say if it was a bigger one, I'd probably suggest that I work with you on it so that we could just like use all our characters as like a big board game sort of thing.
Right.
If I suggested that, it could just be sort of like a very low key, sort of really chill thing to work on and make updates for. I have gone back and forth on that idea over the years of thinking about it.
I think making the whole game. Ooh, well that sucked. Making the whole game around it might be better rather than like making a subsystem, because then you have to like figure out how that system like works around everything else as well.
Oh yeah, because if I did it are you saying you, in terms of subsystem relative to the game, you're saying you'd have to figure that out?
Yeah. Like specifically for Between, right?
Oh yeah, for it I already have sort of, because you haven't played Between, right?
No, you're not allowing me to.
Wait, what?
You told me to like keep waiting for the next release.
I did? I think I told you to wait for a release that came out like 2 months ago.
Oh.
I think it was just like, hey, if you're thinking about playing it, I'm gonna release something in a month, and this is like back in January or something, I think. And then I released something in February.
Do I have to wait for the next release now?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm still relatively early on in that. I did technically release a April Fool's thing that has a preview of the next update. So there is technically a new release as of April 1, so... but with that said, yeah, no, so in Chapter 3, you unlock sort of like a side area, because the game isn't designed around grinding at all. I sort of ended up making the side area with anything extra or non-canon that I'd throw in there. And also have just like a method that you could just you could grind up materials and stuff in that if you wanted to. Sort of like a place to grind for people who wanted to grind, but the game itself isn't designed to have grinding in it, really. So it would just be... So conceptually, the idea was like, currently it has a method that you basically go on a gauntlet that you do fight after fight after fight after fight, and you fight a boss. And then you get materials and other stuff based on that. So the idea was that there'd be another mode instead of a gauntlet of battles, is that you'd go through like a mini board game or sort of thing where you'd have those battles or some other event or some other like little narrative fan fiction event that that would pop up and you can just experience there, and people could submit their own little things that wouldn't be in the game otherwise, but could be just like a few minute scene that they wanted to have fun writing or something like that. So that was sort of the idea behind that. And it's not too difficult in terms of how it would work into the game. That's not too difficult because it sort of was born out of a, like, how do I make this more interesting, this sort of like side grinding area in the first place? So that element isn't too difficult. It's more just the question of like, is it worth
spending the time on
Yeah, is it because if I do it in the game as a sub thing, it's going to be just very simple. Ultimately, it's not really worth going to that much trouble to make a really complicated board game system within the game, right?
Right.
So I don't even remember what started this conversation, but that's just been something I've been going back and forth on, and like, what would I want to do for that? And it's something that I've been able to put off making any decisions on the basis of, you know, I have so many other things to work on, I don't really need to think about it right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to just like, oh, that's a nice idea. Let's like write it and never ever like think about it again.
There's also something in terms of like stuff to work on and stuff like that. Are you in the Novins sort of Afterlife Blood Magic Discord at all?
Yes, I have it muted as like 90% of my Discord servers.
Yeah.
Ooh, finally.
So there is someone in that has a desire to try to take up the development of Afterlife, and while I don't necessarily agree with the concept of taking over the development of something without the creator's blessing, like they're okay with it, since I can personally see not being okay with it.
Yeah.
If they're gonna do it, like it's sort of just like I offered, hey, if you want any help on design and stuff like that, feel free to reach out, and like if you do want that, like obviously if they don't, they don't. But like the thought about that just got me thinking, like if I were to just redo Afterlife from the beginning, from what I've learned over the years of doing this, there's so many interesting things that I feel like you could do with that setting in gameplay and all sort of stuff with like the compulsion mechanics and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, it got my mind, the gears turning, like, ooh, I would do it this way, that way, and it sort of just made me feel like I sort of want to do this now.
The bad thing is no one knows what happened to Novin.
Yeah, it's really a shame that it not even left some sort of message like saying, hey, shit came up, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this anymore. I have no idea where Novin's from or any of that, so hopefully it's as simple as, you know,
he ran out of time.
Life came up, and just the sort of person that doesn't really want to go on there and admit that they have to stop something, that they had to do that, and they just wanted to move on from it mentally. They did have a long gap before then, so they aren't necessarily, say, dead or anything like that, I say, despite this all happening mid-pandemic.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason... Go ahead.
So I was going to say, which is also the tricky part about, like, do you take it over without their blessing when they might not even, like, have the ability to give their blessing or not, and that sort of thing. And it's hard to know from that perspective.
Yeah.
Personally, if I was in that position, I would prefer for someone to not try to take over, like, what I've made. I'd prefer them to try to create something in the same style that they are personally passionate about.
Right. I mean, and even the presence of a project doesn't limit you making like fan games or games inspired by games.
Oh, for sure. Like I started making games because Afterlife inspired me, so.
Oh, Afterlife specifically.
Yeah, because Afterlife in particular, it's like one of the few ones out there in this space that like feels like it treated this sort of like TFTG sort of elements of it as not like what everything was focused around, but rather just like it was just a part of the world. It felt like it was a natural element of what was going on. It was a pillar along with the other parts of the narrative, rather than feeling like, say, Magical Camp, where it can tell a decent story and whatnot, but a lot of it just felt like excuses to go do like the TF stuff, right?
At least it started that way.
Well, I think it definitely leaned more into that for that game, for Magical Camp as it went on, I think.
Oh. I can use the elevator. I just assumed I couldn't.
But yeah, Afterlife had like a really interesting world. It had like an interesting narrative and all that sort of stuff, where the TF stuff just felt like a part of it. And that was the main thing that really... Because it felt like, oh, wow, you can just make an actual good game and a good story that has these elements as just part of it, that feel naturally as a part of it, and doesn't feel like it's a... And they don't feel like a gimmick. And that's what...
Right.
It's the particular element that inspired me to try, basically.
Yeah, for me, I started making games because I wanted to give back to the community. Like, I felt like, oh, I'm playing all these mini games, and I like Magic Camp specifically, so how about I try to make a game?
Makes sense. And from what I've seen of you, you just, in general, like the process of making games in the first place, so...
Yep.
Which is probably more the key to, like, having long-term success in this, right? In some
Yeah.
form. Or at the very least, long-term persistence.
Oh.
That you actually enjoy the process of doing it, and you're not just like, oh, I want to make a TF game, and then you don't care too much about the actual game-making elements. You just like the TF part of it, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, there are way shorter things than games in order to do that.
Oh, for sure. I think it reminds me, because I think I've talked to you about it. I don't know if we've talked to you about it, like in stream and whatnot. I have a general opinion, like, for anyone out there, like, say, you're still in college or something like that, and you're still working out what you want to do for a career in life, always remember that it's way more important that you enjoy the day-to-day, because no matter what the subject matter is, the subject matter novelty will wear off. When you take on something like a job or anything else long-term that'll take a long time, like making a more notable game, like me or Ikaru will typically make, that'll take years to come out fully.
Yeah. I remember the first game I wanted to... Go ahead.
Just finishing the thought. Is like, if you want to burn out on something, that's the first step to doing it, is to pick to do something on the basis of you like the subject matter rather than you like the actual process of doing it.
Yeah. I remember the first game I tried to make, which was, as usual, with a group of friends, and we went way over our head for something we wanted to, like, make. It was like 2012-ish, and Skyrim kinda just, like, came out, and we were like, you know what? There's this engine called RPG Maker. I think BX at the time, not even BX there's this engine called RPG Maker where we can make RPGs. So we're gonna make a game where you can do everything, go anywhere, and there's like 3 cultures and...
Yeah. That is...
You can't imagine how far that went.
Familiar. Yeah, not very. I remember, so my introduction to RPG Maker in particular, or just game making in particular, it was also RPG Maker, but more specifically for me, it was Pokemon. And like Pokemon Essentials, if you've ever heard of that.
No. Is it like a mod or something?
Yeah, it's a big old plug-in mod sort of thing for RPG Maker XP. That basically recreates the entire, well, at least earlier gens, entire Pokemon system, battles and everything else in the RPG Maker engine.
Right.
So basically, my introduction to RPG Maker was when I was like 10 to 14, somewhere in that range. It was basically me discovering this thing. It's like, oh, I want to make my own Pokemon game. And I don't remember all the ideas I went through during that time frame, but like I remember there being like, oh, Pokemon Rogue, I think was the idea, where it was going to be like, oh, you can like pick your character and you could have like this like branching significant narrative within a Pokemon story, and there'd be like political drama. I had like a very weird idea of how I would take Pokemon at that time. I still feel like that could be interesting, but it is interesting going back and thinking about the starting point for like working with the engine even.
I see.
And XP is pretty old, but a lot of like the little things definitely did transfer over once like so like I didn't touch RPG Maker again after that until I started trying to make the tween basically. But a lot of like the minimal knowledge that I got from doing that stuff earlier in life definitely did transfer over because they have a lot of the same sort of approaches to how to actually make the game within the engine.
Right.
Try doing that in art college, says DOS Manager.
Try doing...
I assume
what?
The thing I said before about college, if you're in college, consider your career choice more based on what you want to do day to day if you enjoy it.
Right.
For example, like...
Go ahead.
No, you've been letting me go too many times. You go.
What was I about to say? I assume you're in art college, specifically if you finished art college. Hopefully you like what you do?
It is a big ask for someone to be like... When you're 18 and you're picking where to go, art college is definitely an interesting choice on the basis of you're 18 and you probably don't know that much about like what you want to do in life really at that point. And art college sounds so specialized that it's a very interesting choice.
It sometimes work.
Dropped out. Yeah. I mean, I've just seen so many people that like flip on like what they want to do like in the early years of college. I've known people that have changed degrees and all that sort of stuff, and they just didn't know what they wanted to do, and they had a more opportunity to switch on what they wanted to do, because they had it was a general college, and it didn't necessarily, it wasn't like super specific to art or engineering or any of that sort of stuff. It's not like you couldn't go into another field if you really discovered, yeah, I'd prefer to be doing that.
Yeah, I think that's the good thing about like university slash like a general college instead of like a very specific college. Like they let you try different things before like you commit heavily into one of them. And they even force you to. Like in my university I had to take electives. Like some electives were like, oh, literature, learn a language, what is it? Art history, things like that.
I'm trying to... it's been a while. What was... like the general, because like I went to a college that wasn't it wasn't like a super specific college, but it definitely had a lot more focus on like engineering and stuff ultimately. And part of the reason I chose, like I have degrees in mechanical engineering is because mechanical engineering itself is a pretty wide field,
right,
that can apply to a lot of places. I don't think... I never had to take an art history, I'll say that. I definitely never took an art history class.
When I have a visual arts minor, so one of the electives, quote unquote, was art history. So in order to graduate from... I mean, okay, visual arts and art history makes sense. What would be a more specific example? Uh, I mean, my degree is really... It's a combination of like 4 different things, which is psychology, computer science, linguistics, and philosophy. So I didn't have that much room for electives, because essentially anything is an elective. Like, oh, I take a computer science course, that's an elective. I took a philosophy course, that's an elective.
It does sound... Is that like a specific degree that you're referring to that has all these?
Yes. It's a very specific degree that I have to explain every time I like go into an interview, because no one knows.
I mean, I definitely... What's the name of it? I feel like you mentioned it to me before. Okay, I feel... Cognitive systems. That sounds like a degree you'd get in the Persona universe.
I mean, they taught me a lot about Persona, essentially.
Yeah, the psychology that stuff is sort of based on, yeah.
And it is very, like, Persona is very, let's say, accurate.
Oh yeah, it's definitely... I totally agree on that. I've seen plenty on it. I'm not obviously as well educated on you as it, but it definitely strikes me like they've put a lot of thought into the nature of how they depict that sort of thing.
Ooh, play some Flareon, that's gonna hurt.
Well, Guts Flareon.
Correct.
Oh, that's what you meant. It's gonna hurt them.
Yep. Also, the college I went to was not a good one. That's fair.
I have no perspective on what makes a good or bad art college. I will say that. So one thing that I know my friend is going to try to do in the Emerald stuff, that was a complaint from my other friends that played it, was bag bloats. Bag bloats.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it.
It's probably not as bad for you now, but I think by the end game, when you have so many more like mega stones and stuff like that, it gets
it's already bad.
It can get way worse apparently.
College I went to actively burnt out students to get them to drop out. That doesn't sound nice.
Definitely doesn't sound productive. I wonder what their motivation for that was.
Get used to burnout, kids.
Maybe just like the main thing that comes to mind immediately would be the philosophy of like, if you can't handle this, you're not going to make it. So why bother?
That makes sense.
Like, it isn't necessarily like... So, like, my college, I do remember, like, there's a significant dropout. So, when you're saying they burn them out to get them to drop out, is this, like, first year sort of stuff? Because I do know that there was, like, even in my college, there was, like, a notable dropout rate after that first year.
Also, the degrees were worthless. The degrees are kind of worthless, but they do give you a portfolio.
Yeah, it's one of those tricky things where, like, they are definitely... It takes a very specific field with a lot of, like, industrial need for it, for how much college costs nowadays for it to be financially, like, purely worth it. Usually what you're buying is less so the degree or the education. Usually what you're buying is an access to a networking opportunity for a lot of colleges. Didn't bother the degree. Yeah, I could see that.
Well, my friends,
if you're talking about like art focus specifically, if you're saying that.
I mean, it depends where you are. Like, in the place where I am, it's really hard to get anywhere in the industry if you don't have, like, experience. And how can you get experience if you don't have a job?
So, do you know anything about like the art sectors within those companies? How much they require degrees and stuff like that? Because like you said before, you're applying to jobs at these different studios and whatnot.
I have talked to different HR and like people within the industry itself, and they do tell me like the first thing we do is look into, do you have a degree?
Typically, yeah. I think degrees have a lot more to do with, it's more of a filter on a lot of jobs than it is like something they specifically care. Oh, you have a degree? They more, it's just like, okay, we have all these applicants, let's filter out the ones without the degree, and we'll focus on the ones with the degree. Because that probably has a higher probability of having good applicants.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ways to get into a lot of different fields. Like, I work along people that don't have engineering degrees as well, that are in a similar position as me. And they work their way through just a different avenue. Typically, it took them more years than it took me to get into my position, because they were like in a lower level sort of position before then. But it all depends on the specifics of the situation, which is, the most fun part about getting a job in the first place, right?
Yeah. Like, for an entry-level job without, like, actual professional experience or education, you need luck.
Yeah, well, it depends on industry, obviously. Anything that has any sort of skill requirements, there is definitely a large luck factor. I've talked to you about Icroot before in terms of my thoughts on it, and that's why I say the networking's so important, because the process of interviewing and resumes really only gives an employer a very, very slim view of what you are as a person, what you can do as an employee, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of guesswork going on there. So often be the little things like, more importantly, the networking. This person came from a school that we've had good experience with before. Okay, that's probably a good sign. Or this specific person knows someone via their school connection or something else that can give us a better insight on that person outside of these other views that we have of them. That does a lot. Like, I got my first job on the basis of I did an internship. It was specifically an internship because the company wanted someone from my school, and from that internship, it was they were able to give a good word to another group in the company when they were hiring, to say that I am a good employee, basically. And that in itself, along with the fact that I had some of the internal training already done, which meant that I could be trained up quicker, allowed me to get hired properly for the first time.
Nice.
There, so much of that was just things lining up in the right way, and I am very thankful that it did. And who knows what would have happened if one of those things in the domino stuff didn't happen, where I would be.
Yeah. Life is really unpredictable in that sense.
I'm never not going to pretend that I have a very good, that I'm very fortunate in things going my way on certain parts of my life, so I'm never not going to pretend that.
I mean, first of all, we're just lucky to be alive.
I mean, if you want to talk about the initial race to the egg, right?
Okay, yes. That's also part of it. I mean, Corona did its part on, trying to lower the count on human life.
Yeah, that's definitely was a notable risk factor, and there's luck in that form. Probably a higher percent luck, though, than my previously mentioned point, though.
That is true. And we're lucky that we still have money, we have a house we have a roof under our heads. A roof? over our heads, not the other way around.
For sure. Do you not know where to go?
No. Well, I know where to go. The problem is I don't know how to get it.
Get the card key thing?
First of all, get the car key thing. Oh. I haven't been here.
Oh. That's a good sign then.
I remember this relatively edgy quote, which is like, I know I'm going the right path if there are enemies on the way.
Applies way more to Pokemon than life, I'll say that.
Yeah. It doesn't apply most of the time. Or if it does, you probably should start re-examining yourself. Like,
yeah, if you see, sorry.
Go ahead. I think we're about to say the same thing.
No, you can say it then.
If you find enemies at every point in your life, it's like either you're the problem or you're making terrible decisions.
Yeah, basically.
But in Pokemon, it's the exact opposite.
There is definitely an irony that you can sort of twist into that, and how some of the more recent teams, like the Team Yell and stuff like that, are really just like friendly guys, that sort of thing. They're not real enemies.
Yeah. Ooh,
but yeah, my thought on the...
No.
Ooh. Focus Punch, which is just the worst move. Interesting. Yeah, my general thought is like that mentality of treating everything as like a competition that you need to win or anything like that is like, there's obviously some semblance of truth to it, that there will be things that you need to compete over just in life. But then you also have the fact that, like, the fuck, that sounds like a miserable way to exist, right? Skitter Smack.
Skitter Smack.
Is that like an Eevee move, maybe?
I have no idea. And I don't know.
Bug type. Damage dealing bug type move. Inflicts damage and lowers the target special attack by 1 stage. Power 70. Learnable by... Quite a few by Move Tutor. Mainly just a variety of Pokemon. Probably not worth looking into too much.
I have the card key. I can do shit. Maybe I was gonna start opening doors. But I was counting enemies also in the sense of people that you don't like. Not exactly in terms of competition.
Well, if you see someone as an enemy, then they are directly opposing some semblance of goal that you have, right? In order for someone to be antagonistic, you need to be the protagonist of some initiative goal that you have, right? I guess that's more how I'm interpreting it. That's more what I... So, I guess that's part of it, where it's like, if you see enemies around every corner, then you're probably like when you talk about enemies, you're talking about like when I say that, you're more actually thinking of just like, oh, enemies, like a competition, like you're actually competing for something or something like that. When I say it, I'm like legitimately sort of pointing out the idea that like the problem is more that people see all these things as competitions, right?
Right.
So it causes those sorts of problems.
Floor am I in? Yeah, if you see people like they're trying to help you, they're your friends, things like that, that's a way better outlook in life.
Yep, that's my general how I prefer to approach it. We're all in this together, so let's try to make it the best. Let's try to make the best of it that we can, as for everyone involved. Looks like your attack's starting to catch up to your special attack on Scalion.
More or less. I mean, they're pretty much even.
Yeah, the base stats are even, and I think I mentioned it during the tornado I had last week, that the base stats are even, and any changes you see have a lot more to do with EVs or IVs you have.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, is your area okay?
No, never had any tornadoes actually touch down in the near area. Just lots of sirens for half a week or so going on and off.
Well, that's good.
Haven't really heard sirens much in the past number of years, so it was interesting having like 4 or 5 of them over the course of a week.
Oh. I have to get there. How? I don't know.
A teleporter. So you need to find the right teleporter to get you there, right? I think if I remember correctly, your goal is go down a
floor?
A floor. Go down a floor.
Another one?
If I remember correctly. One more. Wait, no. Yeah, one more.
Let me check what...
No, just go down. No. Physically, no. It's hard to describe it, but there's sort of like a row of sideways doors that you need a keycard for, that there's like a few, one after another, which I think is like the main... Like, not that sideways, the other direction. Though this also might be a good place to go. Well, I think there's like a group of like where you walk sideways, number of doors that you go through, and that's like the main thing. I think that like at the end of that has the teleporter. I just remember that being significant, so I'm guessing it has the teleporter. Sorry?
Nope. Well, it's not this one.
Try going to the left.
On that floor?
Both. Either or. I'm just trying to find the thing I'm thinking of, because I saw it earlier, and I don't remember what floor it's on.
Well, I see more locked doors.
Not this one, but it'll work. It's worth checking, I imagine.
Florian. I mean, Boulder. almost did, so I might have to switch them out. So let's see, is it here? There's not even a teleporter.
Yep, this is not the place I was thinking of, at least, so I would go...
Another floor down?
Yeah, go to the teleporter that you were before. Oh, that too.
So the teleporter was before... So this one.
Yeah, do that one, then go to the left of the floor it takes you to.
Left.
The left side of it. Well, that's one thing. At this point, it's just like, start checking everything. Oh, this looks familiar.
I mean, it's a teleporter inside the...
Inside a room that was locked off, so that's...
Yeah.
A good sign? Nope, okay, yeah.
Nope.
It's this way, it's that. Yeah, there it is. Yep, that's the way you need to go. So yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. It had so you already opened those doors, basically. that was the problem. You were already there.
Seemed like my strat of open every door was not the brightest one. What is this? Full heal. This place is getting ransacked by the mafia. Let's fight.
Wait.
Did the stream froze?
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, it's just on a loading screen now.
Huh.
It's just constantly loading for me.
Well, this is weird. I have internet. Done. Is this better? No.
Just
it doesn't even let me change. It doesn't even let me change screens. I might have to restart it. Let's see what happens. Because I think nothing happens. Like, it doesn't kick you out, so let's see.
I have no idea.
Oh, the bots are gonna be a pain. Oh well.
I don't stream that much. I don't watch streams that much, even. I will say, I do sort of love that this is a Discord 18+ marked video. When you're playing Pokemon.
Hey, but this way we can swear. So fuck it.
Is that the requirement?
I don't know. Go offline, sure. So close that. Open it again.